Assalamu alaikum dear students. We have already studied the cervical vertebra, so we will be studying the hyoid bone. This is the hyoid bone. The hyoid bone. The hyoid bone is actually not a part of the skull. It is not a part of the skull. It is a U-shaped bone. A U-shaped bone which is located in front of the neck between the mandible. The mandible is cut here between the mandible and the larynx at the level of third cervical vertebrae. This hyoid bone is unique because it is not attached to any other bone of the body. It does not articulate with any other bone in the body, but it is suspended from the styloid process. This is the styloid process. It is suspended from the styloid process of the temporal bone by the stylohyoid ligament on either side. So it is suspended by the stylohyoid ligaments on either side. It is also suspended by various muscles. The parts of the hyoid bone has a body and a pair of lesser horn or lesser carnu and a pair of greater horn or greater carnu. Now we will discuss the body of the hyoid bone. The body of the hyoid bone is elongated and it is quadrilateral in shape. It has two extremities or ends, one end, another end. The body has an anterior surface and a posterior surface. It has an upper border and a lower border. The anterior surface is convex and faces forward and upwards. In the upper part of the anterior surface there is a horizontal ridge, and in the median area there is a vertical median ridge that divides the body into two halves. The posterior surface is concave and is directed backward and downwards. The posterior surface, which is on the back here, the posterior surface on the back is separated from the epiglottis by the thyrohyoid membrane. The thyrohyoid membrane goes behind the hyoid bone and is attached to the upper border of the hyoid bone. So between the hyoid bone and the epiglottis there is thyrohyoid membrane. The lateral ends, these are the lateral ends or extremities of the hyoid bone, are continuous with the greater carnu. In early life, the body and the greater carnu are connected by a cartilage, but in later middle life, after middle life, the body and the greater carnu are attached by bone. Now we will discuss the greater carnu or greater horn of the hyoid bone. Each greater carnu projects backward and upwards from the side of the body. Each greater carnu projects backward and upward from the side of the body. They diminish in size from before backwards, and each greater carnu ends in a tubercle. Each greater carnu ends posteriorly in a tubercle. When the neck is relaxed, When the neck is relaxed, the two greater carnu of the hyoid bone, can be grasped between the index finger and the thumb in living subjects, and then the hyoid bone can be moved from side to side. When the neck is relaxed, then the two greater carnu of the hyoid bone can be grasped between the index finger and thumb and moved from side to side, that is in living subjects. Coming to the lesser carnu, this is the lesser carnu. The lesser carnu is a small conical bony projection that is attached at the junction of the body and the greater carnu. This small conical bony projection. The stylohyoid ligament, which we discussed earlier, is attached to the tip of this lesser carnu, and it is sometimes ossified. The hyoid bone provides attachment to a number of muscles. Otherwise, it is of little functional significance. Now we will study the various muscles and ligaments attached to the hyoid bone. The hyoid bone is important only because a number of muscles and ligaments are attached to the hyoid bone. Among the muscle of the oral cavity and pharynx, suprahyoid muscles and infrahyoid muscles are attached to the hyoid bone. Among the muscles of the oral cavity and pharynx, the middle constrictor muscle, this is the middle constrictor muscle of the pharynx, the hyoglossus muscle and the genioglossus muscle are attached to the hyoid bone. Among the suprahyoid muscles, the stylohyoid by its two slip is attached to the hyoid bone. The geniohyoid is attached to the hyoid bone, and the mylohyoid is attached to the hyoid bone. So these are the suprahyoid muscles attached to the hyoid bone. Among the infrahyoid muscles, the thyrohyoid, this one, the thyrohyoid, the homohyoid and the sternohyoid. These are the infrahyoid muscles attached to the hyoid bone. Among the ligament, the stylohyoid ligament, the thyrohyoid membrane and the hyoepiglottic ligaments are attached to the hyoid bone. Hyoid bone is medico-legally also important. In suspected cases of death, the examination of hyoid bone is of great medico-legal importance, because if there is fracture of the hyoid bone, it suggests that the person has been killed by strangulation or throttling. Another importance of the hyoid bone is the tip of the greater carnu of the hyoid bone is important surgical landmark. The tip of the hyoid bone can be palpated near the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid when the neck is relaxed, and the lingual artery forms a loop above the greater carnu. Hence, the greater carnu is important surgical landmark for locating the lingual artery for ligation when radical surgery of the neck is done. So this is the surgical importance of the hyoid bone, that the relationship of the lingual artery with the tip of the greater cardinal of the hyoid bone.